Today, former Binance CEO Changpeng Zhao faces sentencing in federal court. MicroStrategy reports a wide earnings miss in Q1, even with Bitcoin's huge gains. And Kevin Dinino of KCD PR explains what it's like to run a crypto business in today's environment. Welcome to CNBC's Crypto World. I'm Tanea McKeel. Crypto prices sliding to end the month. Bitcoin fell more than 3.5% to the $60,000 level by noon Eastern. Ether dropped 6% below $3,000, and Polygon lost 7% to trade at 66 cents. Bitcoin tumbled 11% in April, also by noon Eastern, marking its first down month in 8 and its worst month since November 2022. Meanwhile, Ether falling 13% to its first negative month in 8 and worst month since June 2022. Investors expecting more choppy trading in a narrow range in the month ahead now that the key Bitcoin catalysts, the ETF and halving, are behind us, and macro and geopolitical pressures weigh on the markets broadly. Okay, let's talk about the top stories. MicroStrategy reported a loss of more than $53 million in the first quarter of 2024. That's thanks to a digital asset impairment charge the self-described Bitcoin development company reported, totaling more than $191 million. That impairment comes despite Bitcoin's surge of nearly 67% in Q1. MicroStrategy also updated its total Bitcoin holdings to 214,400 at an average price of $35,180 per Bitcoin as of April 26th. Shares of the stock plunged this morning following yesterday's report, down nearly 15% as of noon. Next, spot Bitcoin and Ether ETFs just made their debut in Asia. The six funds began trading on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange 3 months after the approval of spot ETFs here in the US. The products were issued by China Asset Management, Bocera Asset Management, and Harvest Global Investments, and collectively saw a first-day trading volume of more than 10 million shares. This launch beats the US's decision on spot Ether ETFs. The SEC is expected to make that decision in May. Finally, Changpeng Zhao, the ex-CEO of Binance, is about to find out if he faces prison time. Back in November, he pleaded guilty to enabling money laundering on the Binance platform, all part of a plea deal that required the exchange to pay $4.3 billion in fines and for him to pay $50 million while stepping down as CEO. CZ's lawyers have asked for probation, while prosecutors are asking for 3 years in prison, more than the 10 to 16 months legal experts told CNBC were the guidelines for these crimes. Judges can use their discretion, so we'll be watching to see just how much prison time might be handed down to CZ during the hearing. But this case stands as a sharp contrast to rival firm FTX, which was revealed to be a massive fraud back in 2022. Yeshe Yadav, a law professor and associate dean at Vanderbilt, told CNBC that CZ could benefit from the fact that Binance is still operational and working on compliance efforts. Now, all that being said, the sentencing hearing is happening on the West Coast, so the verdict is coming after this show goes up on Tuesday. You should check out CNBC.com for the latest on Changpeng Zhao's sentencing. All right, for our main story, let's talk about the outlook for crypto businesses. The turmoil over at Binance, the fall of FTX, several crypto bankruptcies, and a huge crash in crypto markets damaged trust in the ecosystem, but things seem to be looking up this year. Crypto World's Jordan Smith spoke with Kevin Dinino, founder and president of KCD PR, to find out how crypto businesses are positioning themselves in 2024.
Bitcoin came roaring back after the doldrums of last year. When we spoke to you last time, it was like June of 2023. It seems like investors are interested in this space again. And what has 2024 looked like for crypto businesses that you work with? How has sentiment or energy changed compared to, say, 2023 when we were coming out of the FTX drama?
I think a lot of it you can really tie back to the launch of the various Bitcoin-related ETFs that have hit the market. And with that, you really kind of brought in Main Street into the fold, into the crypto world. And so 2024 has definitely been a fairly upbeat year as it has to do with crypto prospects across the board and folks that we're working with. But when you bring in the Main Street group into the fold, I think that's been a game changer for the industry. And so new projects have definitely kind of taken flight this year. In comparison to last year, Jordan.
And one of the things we're seeing across the U.S. economy right now are layoffs here and there. And right now, tech has been so many of those layoffs that have been announced. And when we're looking at crypto specifically, just this week, we talked about on Crypto World, Yuga Labs announced layoffs, announced a restructuring. On the other hand, we've also reported on Crypto World that VC interest is coming back in crypto. So it seems like it's an uncertain or confusing time in the space. What are you seeing in terms of uncertainty, or should we expect more layoffs in crypto? What does the uncertainty look like right now?
I mean, I think a lot of the uncertainty really kind of came through with crypto winter. And so a lot of crypto companies and projects are really operating fairly lean and mean as it is these days. So if anything, my guess is that we're probably at sort of the bottom cycle of that as it has to do with layoffs. Obviously, tech continues to sort of see that shift. That said, I think crypto likely already went through it in that regards. And I think just in general, the Web3 crypto space teams as a whole tend to be run fairly lean as is. And that's probably benefited the industry as a whole. And when it comes to do with that.
When it comes to legal challenges, one of the first things that comes to mind is obviously the FTX and the stuff that we were worried about in 2022 into 2023. As we're talking today, we're getting a sentencing of Binance's former CEO, Changpeng Zhao. Obviously, we all paid attention to what happened with FTX, but now looking at the space, does that seem sort of in the rearview mirror, less important to crypto investors, or the types of things that would have made businesses more skittish? Is that out of the way now? Are people less concerned?
I don't think it's out of the way. I think, trust in general is huge in any industry, in particular with customers, potential buyers, et cetera, as well. And so I think that's definitely been a little bit of a stain, if you will, on the crypto industry. And that rebuilding trust is going to be important to do so. And I think, again, I know the crypto space doesn't like to hear this, but regulation as a whole still probably needs to take a little bit more flight in this space to get the Main Street consumer feeling more comfortable to, in many cases, invest, whether it's with their retirement funds, or, extra cash on the table as well into these projects too. And then you'll see that again on the VC side as well. So I think trust is going to be earned and needed to be rebuilt, Jordan, in that regards.
Yeah, I'm going to ask about regulation in just a second, because I think that's an important one. But I wonder, individually with businesses specifically, are there ways that you're seeing businesses that you deal with work on that rebuilding of trust individually, because we haven't seen any movement when it comes to regulation? How are they working on it themselves?
A lot of it is transparency and stems with just the broader corporate communications that are coming out from the company. How are we communicating with our audiences, whether it's investors, customers, vendors, et cetera? And so, the crypto space as a whole has probably been a little bit softer on that in terms of really kind of, in many cases, flying by the seat of their pants. That can't happen anymore. And so what we're seeing is sort of a fundamental change in terms of the structure of how crypto and Web3 brands are communicating. And again, a lot of it, Jordan, goes back to the fact that now we have Main Street really entering the fray. One key point that actually came up is I think the big differentiator here is now you have a huge distribution network of financial advisors that are now able to offer their clients access to the crypto asset class via these ETFs. And so when you're seeing large financial institutions dedicating 3, 4, 5% of their total portfolio to the crypto space and Bitcoin as itself right now, that's a game changer. But with that comes a lot of responsibility from the broader industry as a whole. And so in order to do that, transparency, being clear on our communications, being consistent really is going to be an important trend going forward.
Speaking of ETFs and regulation, I think that all goes back to the SEC. We're seeing renewed challenges against DeFi platforms, and the SEC itself has picked up the pace in terms of crypto enforcement in the past year and a half or so. Last year, we heard a lot of talk from crypto businesses about potentially leaving the US if those challenges go on, if the SEC continues its stance. Looking at it this year, though, especially as they're ramping up law enforcement action against DeFi platforms, have you heard any conversations about companies or organizations saying that they would look outside the US, at least at the same volume that we heard it in 2023?
Not at the volume of last year, and I think there's probably going to be a happy dance and balance here that the SEC and regulators are going to have to take with various crypto brands. I mean, I definitely see, you mentioned on the VC side, we're seeing small seed Series A investments into various DeFi protocols, et cetera. And it is sort of shaping up to be a DeFi summer, if you will, coming out of crypto winter. And so I would say expect the SEC to continue to really toe the line on that. I know they've been ruling by enforcement pretty consistently on this, but I think there'll be an even balance in that regards kind of going forward as we look to the second half of this year, and knowing that an election is looming too, and you have kind of various political entities sort of jostling for power in that regards as well.
Okay, that's all for Crypto World today. We'll be back again tomorrow, and we'll see you then.